Speed doesn't just exhaust the body, it exhausts taste. After many years of fast trends, lists, recommendations, best fragrance, strongest fragrance, and most complimented fragrance, something began to change. Not in the market, but in us. At first, we didn't notice. Every perfume felt like a discovery. Every recommendation felt like an opportunity. Every video was a promise. Every launch was an event. But over time, opportunity became repetition. The fragrance that once felt different began to resemble what came before it. The same opening, the same heart, and the same base. And with every new release, we say, this is special. Then, a month later, we say the same thing about another fragrance. Then, another. Then, another. What happens when everything is special? Nothing remains special. But when everything becomes luxury, exclusive, niche, all of it loses meanings. Abundance does not always mean freedom. Sometimes it means confusion. When you face hundreds of options, thousands of reviews, dozens and dozens of lists, endless comparisons, confusion becomes the result. And here, the search for something else begins. The question is no longer, what is the best fragrance? It becomes, which fragrance feels like me? And that is a very different question. Best requires comparison, but feels like me requires awareness, self-awareness. At this stage, perfume is no longer an announcement, no longer a tool to impress others, no longer an attempt to prove that you are strong, that you are attractive, or that you are successful. It becomes an extension of something unseen but smelled, an extension of an inner voice, not spoken but understood, the perfume experience. Some people began returning to samples, waiting, wearing a fragrance for a full day, instead of judging in 5 minutes. Perfume is no longer a first impression. It becomes a journey from the opening, to the heart, to the base, to the trail, to the silence after it disappears. Why now? Because speed consumes meaning. When fragrances are consumed quickly, we lose the ability to remember them. Scents become similar, passing, and temporary. And here appears a desire for depth. People did not stop loving perfume, but they grew tired of consuming it. The lost feeling. In the past, you had one fragrance. You knew it well. You knew when it begins, when it softens, when it fades, and when it leaves a trace, and when it becomes a part of you. Today, you have 10, maybe even 20, and you no longer remember which one feels like you. We switch before we understand. We judge before we live the experience. We rate before we allow the scent to evolve. Some perfumes need time, but trends do not allow time. Authenticity does not mean strange. It does not mean rare. It does not mean expensive. It means alignment. A fragrance that feels right when no one notices, even when no one compliments it, even when it never appears on a top 10 list. Authenticity is resistance. Resistance to speed, resistance to repetition, resistance to noise. It is not a scream, it is a decision to choose what suits you, not what suits the algorithm. Perfume no longer leads society. It reflects its rhythm, a fast, anxious, shifting rhythm. But the real question is not, what is the best fragrance? The question is, are we searching for scent or belonging? Do we choose what we love or what we have seen enough times? In the trend era, taste is suggested, repeated, reinforced, looped, until it feels like it's your decision. But is it? Because the problem is not the perfume. The problem is our relationship with it. In the past, we searched for a scent to live with. Today, we search for a scent to define us quickly. Perfume is no longer memory. It became a fast introduction to your identity, an invisible name tag. But what happens when identity is tied to something that evaporates? We begin searching for a replacement, a new fragrance, a new impression, a new version of ourselves. But the truth is, we are not only changing the perfume, we are changing our image, our impression, the way we want to be seen. And here, perfume transforms from experience into an attempt to control the first impression. But the real impression cannot be bought. At some point, we realize perfume is not what we add, but what reveals us? It reveals our mood, our state, our day's energy, even our doubts. An honest fragrance does not hide, it aligns. And that is why the search for authenticity is not a search for a rare perfume. It is a search for a fragrance you do not need to justify. A fragrance that needs no explanation, no comparison, and no list. Speed created something else. The fear of choosing wrong. We fear buying a fragrance others won't like. We fear it won't be praised and it won't be noticed. So we return to trends, because trends offer us a guarantee, the guarantee of acceptance. But acceptance is not always comfort. Sometimes it is compromise. Slowness is not weakness, it is space. Space to experience, to observe, and to remember. The fragrance you discover slowly stays. The fragrance you buy quickly gets replaced. When does a perfume begin? Not at the first spray, but when you stop thinking about it, when it becomes a part of your day, when you forget about it, but others remember it. Authenticity is not one decision. It is a series of small choices. Every day when you choose what you wear, what you say, and even what you smell like. Because perfume, in the end, is not about others. It is about the way you choose to live your day. After the shock, the dominance, the withdrawal, the fragmentation, the niche, the curated success, the trend, we arrive at the question: who am I without recommendation? If the search for authenticity has begun, can it become a movement? In the next episode, we enter perfume as slow art.